My friends, as most of you probably know, I have two children. I have an 8-year-old boy and an almost 3-year-old girl. My wife just sent me a picture. They're watching me on. That's why I have my computers. They can stream me at home. So hi, Mason and Madeline. Everyone says hi.
Hello.
Someone says hello. So let's say
Laura said hello. Again.
They're amazing, and I love them. And they also, like all children, they have quirks, like I do, like my wife does, like everyone in this room does. Bedtime, for example, has specific routines that I've learned must be followed. I have to tell you, I'm ashamed to say this, that last night I committed a grievous offense. I went to turn off the light from my daughter's room before I sang her the song instead of after.
No, absolutely not.
I was quickly informed that I was incorrect in the way I handled the situation, but you'll be happy to know that I did rectify it immediately, because the almost 3-year-old insisted loudly and with some vitriol that I do so.
Or what?
Well, she wouldn't go to sleep, I
guess.
guess.
Because or is also like.
It's true. The reality is that these routines and preferences, to some extent, seem arbitrary to me, and I'm sure they seem arbitrary to my wife, but they fill a very specific need for my children. I don't have to understand why things must be done in a certain order in order to recognize that it's important that they are done in that order. We've entered the part of the Torah with which, frankly, I struggle, not because the material is morally inconsistent with what I believe. We'll get there. But because I struggle to care about the things that they're writing right now. I have no strong opinions about the specific designs for the vestments that the Kohanim wear. I really do not care whether the Israelites burned the correct parts of the ram, that's the fatty parts, just in case you're wondering, according to Exodus 29:22, or they burned the less fatty parts, or I don't care about the level of blemish. None of that has any impact on my day-to-day life. And so as I was considering this week's Parashat, which is Tetzaveh, I was trying to come up with a hook, trying to figure out a way in which I could address the Parashat that was meaningful to me and I hope meaningful to you. And I concluded that I was perhaps looking at this all wrong, especially from the perspective of 2026. These specifics of what the priests are wearing, or what the ark looks like, or how many pieces of manna the Israelites were allowed to gather, they seem less important than the fact that they establish this level of importance for Hashem. It reminds me I guess the point I'm making is the details are less important than the routine. It reminds me of the story that some of you may be familiar with, that the band Van Halen, in their early 80s heyday, they got some mocking press because the band's tour rider, which is the contract they have with the promoters, was very specific. They were not allowed to have any brown M&Ms in their dressing room. It's true. I promise you I'm not making this up. This, they were mocked. They said, oh my gosh, perhaps the alcohol and the cocaine are taking their toll. But actually this served a really important purpose. It was to make sure that the process of reading the whole rider was done by the promoters, so that it's not just the brown M&Ms. It's how's the electricity? Is the specifics of the stage correct? Because there's a safety issue here. The routine, the process of reading the rider was more important than the brown M&Ms. I don't think that they would have thrown a fit if they were, other than they would have known that they had to check everything else. It was about the process. Did the promoters go through everything they were supposed to do? And it occurs to me that most of us spend a lot of our time checking boxes off. We go through our day trying to figure out tasks that we can do to check the boxes off. We want that immediate dopamine rush that we figured something out, that we finish it, that we can push that off the extreme mental load with which we are burdened most days. And then we look back a lot of these tasks and realize, I didn't do it as well as I could have. I didn't go all the way through the process. I got maybe 90% through the process, and then I said, that's good enough. We left some stones unturned, maybe some T's uncrossed. That's what we do. we want to get to the next thing. And so we ignore the details. We ignore these specific items that we really have to do. And so I want to impart upon us as we move into this weekend of Shabbat, as we move into the next week, as we look towards the back half of this spring semester, that the details matter, even if you don't think they do. They matter because you have to go all the way through the process. The process is important. And life is not just about checking off these boxes. The Israelites could easily have built an ark made of wood, and that's it. The process is important. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.